All right, welcome everybody. My name is Volts Trabergs. Welcome to the June 2025 MAS monthly meeting. Nice to see a great crowd here. I assume we've got a good crowd online as well. We've got a good program lined up for us today. So let's get going and feature Suresh's M100 image. So beautiful, beautiful image of Spiral Galaxy. Thank you, Suresh. All right, our agenda today, we'll welcome everybody and introduce the MAS board as we normally do. We'll do a little bit of a membership update. We do have a kind of a sad moment that we're going to discuss today. We're going to remember one of our longtime members and a very, very active amateur astronomer, a friend of ours, Dave Tostison, who recently died. So we do have a couple slides that were put together in Dave's memory. And so we'll go through that and give anybody a chance to speak up and tell any Dave Tostison stories or any remembrances. But so we'll do that. Then, as usual, we'll get into upcoming Astro events. We are going to also talk about what we're doing with outreach. We do have a new outreach committee, and so we've kind of started to roll with the new outreach committee and some new initiatives with outreach. And then Clayton will give a site update on J.J. Casby Observatory on the projects going on there and talk about upcoming events, especially the bigger events coming up, Camping with the Stars, Northern Nights Starfest at LLCC. We'll have the treasurer's report, and Ahmed will announce his call for astrophotos for the August meeting. So in August, usually we don't have a speaker. We have just an agenda full of people's members' images, whatever astrophotography images and stories behind them. And then we're going into public service announcements. Jerry is not here, but we do have virtual Jerry here, so that's always good. And then and to close out, we do have our featured speaker, Bob King. Bob King will be joining us remotely through Zoom. So that's our program for tonight, and let's get going. So the MAS board, I believe all of the board members are here. I'm Volts Trabergs, president. John Zimmich, vice president. Claire Weaverling, secretary. Noha Reda, treasurer. Jesse and Phil, board members at large. Thanks for all of your hard work. If there's any questions to any board member, this is the contact web link. There's a form on there that you can contact any member or all of the board about any question about MAS operations. All right, membership. So every month, Steve Emmert, our membership coordinator, compiles a list of our membership. And so what we'd like to do is welcome our newest members. So are there any brand new members on this list joining us either on Zoom today or here in person at the community center? Raise your hand if you're a new member. Or if you're on Zoom, just say hi. And welcome back a couple. And then so we've got 733 total members as of June 2nd, 3 honorary, 163 patron, 532 regular, and 35 student. So if there's any questions about membership or any of the perks and any of the any things regard to membership, you can always reach out to Steve at membership@mnastro.org through email. All right, so now kind of to the sad part of our presentation today. So I have to thank Greg Halbrick, John Marchetti, and Jim Parson who put together a few slides in remembrance of Dave Tostison. I didn't know Dave that well. I did meet him a couple times at LLCC, but he was definitely a very, very kind and knowledgeable and just a fun guy to be around. Very, very, very fine man. So Dave passed away May 5th of this year of a sudden illness. You know, he was very religious. He was a husband, grandfather, father. He was an MD, loved MD, a great amateur astronomer and a friend to many of the MAS people and many, many other people. So just a all around great person. So Dave was renowned as as one of the world's best deep sky visual observers. He was the author of many, many articles in Sky and Telescope, Astronomy, Amateur Astronomy. He was a regular columnist, and his column was Deep Sky Hunting. And I just remember reading his articles very much about stuff that me as an imager, I thought it was very, very difficult to image, but he was able to observe with his eyeballs, you know, things that were just incredibly, incredibly dim, and he was a very, very common contributor to the AL Reflector magazine, and of course our Gemini MAS newsletter as well. He was a national speaker at many Alcons, uh, a regular at Texas Star Party and the Okie-Tex Star Party, and he spoke many times as a MAS member here in the monthly meetings and also in BSIGs, and presented many, many times in various forms. So he was recipient of many amateur astronomy awards. He is an AL Master Observer Gold level, so one of the highest levels that's achievable. Texas Star Party Lone Star Stargazer Award, the AL Herschel Society Gold level certificate, 2,398 Herschel objects, 3 Ain't No Observing Awards. I don't know what those are, but it sounds fun. There you go. And 20 years, Texas Star Party Advanced Telescope lists completed those lists, and numerous other observing projects around the country and I'm sure around the world. And there you can see him. Looks like in a very, very dark sky site with his 30+ inch scope. So Dave's astronomy passion was to push the limits of visually observing the faintest, most and interesting and previously never observed deep sky objects. For example, it was a galaxy in the Hubble Deep Field, some brown dwarf stars, gravitationally lensed arcs, all visually observed, stuff that I can't get as an imager even. He observed dwarf planet Sedna, protostars, 45 galaxies alone in Abell 2065, which is an incredible feat for a visual observer. He also was a he regularly researched professional publications to mine and find new challenges, observing challenges, pushing the limits of his 32-inch Dob, which I believe is still the largest Dob in the state of Minnesota. Dave loved to share his passion for astronomy, being generous with his time and knowledge. I just remember spending a little bit of time with him up at NNSF a couple times, and just chewing the fat about various obscure supernova remnant pieces, and having a good time with the Green Bay guys who were challenging him to do the same. And his humor was just top notch, without an equal. So that his visitation and celebration of life is this coming weekend. So Saturday, June 7th, from 2 to 4 p.m. at Grandstand Funeral Home in 11900 Lake Lane North in Lindstrom. And then his celebration of life is Sunday, June 8th at 1 p.m. at Zion Lutheran Church in Old Town Road, Chisago City, Minnesota. There's a visitation prior to the funeral as well from 12 to 1 o'clock at that same location. So please, if you knew Dave, we're gonna try to pay his last respects there. So what I want to do is open the floor to anybody who may have any additional words to say about Dave. I do want to say thank you again to Greg, John, and Tim for putting these slides together. But if anyone has any additional words to say about Dave, please? Anybody? All right, so we hope this.
Is this where?
Yeah, Chisago area. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. If there's no other comments online or anybody else, okay. All right, Ron.
Dave was one of those impressive individuals that had a skill set that was unrivaled, and he was right here in our own group. And with some of the titans of amateur and even professional astronomy that we've lost recently, I think it reminds us all to look around, to meet the person next to you. Dave's not AI. Fred Espenak was not AI.
Yep.
Jay Pasikoff was not AI. Attila Danko was not AI. And if you got to meet people like this, you got to dip into a well of knowledge that was deep and human and real. And I think too often we keep that 3-foot focus and we just can't be bothered with the people around us. And just a reminder to just sit in each other's presence and get to know their perspective, their insight. And every time Dave presented something, you're like, yeah, and it's supposed to be biologically impossible to see this, but here are, sketches of what I saw. And you're just like, are you kidding me? So an incredible human being in an age where I think we need a little bit more human with our being. So just another encouragement. Just want to encourage you to don't forget to sit next to people like this in the club and start with a casual conversation, but then, ask him what's the faintest object he ever saw. He may just blow your mind.
Yeah, sit next to somebody you don't know. Get to know them.
Yeah, and you may find out that they've had an incredible career, especially in a group like this where a lot of our members are getting the big telescopes they've always wanted because now they're retired and they got money. Isn't that right, John? And people that have had long and storied careers that you might not even be aware of, and just they're around us everywhere. So make that contact and just reach out. And that's the reason we're a club. If you want to just get what you want out of online websites and such, that's one thing. But it's a much richer and deeper experience when we all share and learn and grow together.
Thank you, Ron. Anyone else?
I too had the privilege of having conversations with Dave at LLCC and really enjoyed that. But one of the memories I had, we went through a moving process and they had to thin out all my stacks of magazines and everything like that. So I went through the old Sky and Telescope magazines, the old reflectors, and just kind of tore out the pages that were keepers. And if it had his name on it, on that article, it was definitely a keeper. There was, I don't know how many articles he ended up writing, but that I'll think of them even more as I go back through those.
One of the things that we're going to do as a club, we authorize some of the other publications to republish some of the articles that he wrote for Gemini. So there's some additional content that is still going to live on even after Dave is gone. So we're gonna keep doing that as well and give him that opportunity to stay active. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll move on. All right, Astro events for June 2025. It's kind of a lean month, actually. I went through the list. Who's ready for the Aretids meteor shower? Yeah? Probably full moon or something's going to screw us up. Full moon, by the way, June 11th. Last quarter moon, June 18th. Relatively close conjunction, Moon, Saturn, Neptune, if you're into that kind of stuff. June 20, it's a bad day for astronomers. It's the solstice, so shortest night. So, but it's at least the nights are going to get longer from there on out. So conjunction of Moon and Venus on June 22nd. June 25th, Mercury will be at its highest altitude in the evening. So that's something to look forward to. The Boated meteor shower, June 27th, another whiz banger. And conjunction of Moon and Mars on the 29th. And before the next meeting on July 2nd, Moon will be at first quarter. So me as a space geek, following along with some of the space missions. So I was hoping that Japan would be able to land on the moon today, but I was watching the webcast and all of a sudden they just said it lost all contact. So I don't know if they officially said it crashed yet, but it certainly didn't seem very good. Yeah, that was depressing. Yes. And then June 8th is an Axiom Space private mission to the ISS, launching on a Falcon 9. On June 19th, Parker Solar Probe will be at perihelion, so that's going through another cycle. And then there's another CLIPS mission, a Lunar Trailblazer Nova C. It's scheduled sometime in June. Who knows if it's actually going to launch to the moon with another lander. And then there's a Soyuz Progress mission also scheduled for June. So those are the upcoming space events. And as always, most of my resources are in sky.org. There's a pretty good things. And I've learned to filter out the things that you can't see from Minnesota. So now I don't have to say it, not here anymore. Yeah. All right, new outreach committee. So we had our first outreach committee meeting with the new committee. So the committee members, now Jesse Palmer is coordinating, Trina, Don Stewie, who is a new member, and come out to Eagle Lake a couple times. He's active out there and wants to engage as outreach as well. Mark Job and Greg Hallberg also have reached out. So we hope that we can continue on with outreach and improve all of our outreach resources. So some of the improvement projects that we are doing for 2025. So we've cleaned up and organized the outreach requests on the forum and on Slack, if you noticed that. So all of the old outreach things that have been completed or not fulfilled have been now archived into a subforum. So only the active outreach items will be on the first page of the forum. And we're going to do more interactive engagement on the Slack outreach channel as well. So it's not only the forum, but it's forum and Slack. So we're going to solicit for volunteers needed for upcoming outreach events here at this meeting. And now that's my next slide. I'll highlight some of the outreach events that are coming up where we're still looking for volunteers. And we're putting an online inventory of what's in the outreach bins. We've added small little mini Celestron first scopes to the outreach bins, to both of them. And I built solar filters for both of those scopes. So those are available and in both of the bins. Jesse is working on new literature to be added to the outreach bins, as well as just revamping all of our literature for the club in terms of that. And we've got prototypes of the new literature up here if you want to come see Jesse. And probably in about a month, we'll get a number of those printed up with the new ELO schedules and to print out nice glossy, more modern looking literature. Like I said, I've already added the small telescopes to both of the bins. And we're also looking to promote the MAS events in the community at large to a larger level outside of just the club and outside of the club's normal channels. So I'm really excited about the new outreach committee, really making strides in making it more efficient and reaching a much larger audience. So thank you for all your support for everybody doing outreach, and especially the new outreach committee members. All right, outreach requests. This is the current list of requests where if you've got any interest or any availability. So there's still a request for June 7th at private birthday party at ELO. June 17th, 18th, or 19th, there's a Girl Scout event. They're still looking for some volunteers down in Apple Valley. August 8th, September 5th, and October 3rd at the Mississippi River River and Recreation Area. That's over by the airport over there. They're looking for some help out there for a star party or daytime solar observing. August 16th is a fun event at Forestville Mystery Cave State Park in their Dark Sky Festival. It's a really beautiful park and a really fun event. And then there's also a request for a private retreat for creative types in Grand Rapids. And so there's more information on the forum about that. So all of those are available. They're looking for volunteers to help staff that, to man some telescopes, to do some other things. So please log into the MAS forum in the outreach section, or look at the outreach section in the Slack channel. And all of these things are cataloged there. And that's where outreach requests will come up. But what we're going to do is also highlight them here. Yes, in the back. There's no automatic connection between the two, so they're manually done. So right now Jesse is trying to coordinate things manually, right? Correct? Yep. Yeah. Yep. All right. Any other questions about outreach? All right, very good. So again, thank you all of your outreach volunteers. Outreach is very, very important to the MAS. All right, so up next is Mr. Clayton. So Clayton, all of our site leaders have committed to do a little talk about their sites and their projects and everything going on.
What is that? What?
Well, the photo, it's the photo, you've seen the other one, we've seen the one there all the time, so people okay with the last. Tired, I don't think that's the question. Thank you very much. All right, my name is Clayton Lindsay. A lot of you guys out there probably already know me. I see a couple of new faces. I've been with the club probably 15 years or so. Currently serving as the JJ Casby Observatory Metcalf Field Committee Chair. And this will only take about 15 minutes. Most of you are probably familiar with JJ Casby. And we'll go through this. Ed, do I have control? Yeah. Okay. What I should also say is that we're doing Metcalf too, and our key representative for Metcalf is Suresh with the BSIG organization. But I want to it does deserve its own slide. It is for everyone is welcome. So we have all the beginners come out there, and I believe you have one tomorrow, and you'll talk about it later. And I think we're having probably 40 to 60 people on a good night, and 20 to 30 telescopes out there. Where we have people in the club that are experienced come out and help with new telescopes or people that are new to the club and so forth. And I also had to make the joke that they're more than beginners, because I'm seeing a lot of astrophotographers out there bringing their equipment, setting it up, and then helping people while collecting a few photons on their cameras. And of course, Suresh is always holding court out there. Good job. I want to give a round of applause for Suresh. Beginners Special Interest Group has been coming along great in the last few years. He's really established a routine out there. And if you do get a chance to come out, please come out. We have the 2025, we have a new committee members. We had several people, a good number of people volunteer, and I took them all because we have a good bit of stuff that we can do out there. So we have 10 people on the committee. And we just had a recent meeting. So we're trying to assign some tasks out there and do a little bit of the work that's needed out there. We will get to that. The number of people that are out there that do visit us, this is a chart. I give it to the board. So we're just pulling this from the calendar event. So we can reserve the observatory, which is in the yellow. So you're running about 10 people. As you can see, we have a lot more activity in the spring and summer and the fall. And for some reason, it falls off in the winter. But at least somebody went out there for the snow picture. So we had one. People that become key holders can have a mentoring session because it is, equipment, maybe they've never seen it before. And we've spent a couple hours training, so we let people come out and just be mentored. So we do have that as an option. You can reserve the plaza on the outside. And the purple line is the number of people that we've been training. So we only train during the summer months, really. So we're getting about 3 or 4 a month. What goes on at JJ Casby? If you guys aren't aware, I know it seems like we don't seeing a lot of people out there from membership side, and that's up for you guys to go out and visit JJ Casby. But the St. Paul School District and the Bellwin Outdoor Science Organization have about over 10,000 students from the St. Paul district come out every year. And that's a 5-day process. They bring them out, they bus them out. Now, primarily that's 3rd, 5th graders that are out there. About 1,000 middle schools and over 1,800 special education students. Most of the kids that are in the 3rd grade are the people that, when the weather's conducive for it, because it's in the wintertime a lot of the time, they will bring the kids in to do solar observing. So we have a H-alpha scope and a white light scope. So they get a chance to see that. So a lot of the kids, I get a lot of feedback that the kids really love seeing the telescope, and it's really fun. So for a lot of these kids coming from the city, that's maybe the first time out in the environment for the trees and the walks in the woods. But they also get a little bit of education on the sky. This is the budget tracking that I do, and the treasurer will do more budget a little bit later. But primarily, we have about a $5,000 budget, and we have not spent a lot this year. But we did have a little bit of maintenance where we had to work on a electrical pole at the Bellwin, at Metcalf Field. That was an unexpected event. Came up, it was about $275. So, but we're going to push that into the maintenance budget. Huh? Yeah, we think somebody hit it. Well, I think probably it was possibly the grass cutters. But it's been repaired, and we put some rocks around it, I think, now, so we'll not happen again, hopefully. Lesson learned. List of action items. Of course, we got the new committee members. We're still working. The Metcalf electrical repair was complete. John Heyman took care of that for us. We did a new reservations on the pads. So if you go in and reserve, if you're a key holder, you can reserve individual pads. That was Larry's initiative. He wants to get more key holders out there because we could handle more key holders coming out. Yes. Yes, JJ Casby. Thank you. So you can read through those. Those are just the standard things that kind of come up everywhere. We have updated inventory, but that's going to happen for every site this year. We're trying to look at, revising the training docs. We've tried to shorten them a little bit, take out some of the bigger photos, trying to make it smaller. Going to a process where it's online, and then they can have a copy in the observatory itself. It's very similar to what ELO is doing. We are also, I would like to just throw it out there, future chair planning. I've been chair for a couple of years, so I'm looking at somewhere like maybe another 12 months, 18 months. Somebody might want to come along and do that. There is a little bit of talk about a dark sky talk out there, and I'm going to leave that up to programming to figure out what we do there. There's just a request. See anything on there of major interest? Probably not. The other non-budget tasks or things that we're cleaning up, Larry Kane has taken over the security code maintenance. He's also the security code person out at ELO. So if you have problems, if you're a key holder and you have problems out there, Larry is the person to contact now. So we're also updating the key holder list and the forum, the people that are in there. But I just waited until Larry finished his stuff. So he has given me a list now. So we should probably be able to kick people out that are no longer with the club and so forth. New pictures are needed for the web from the MAS. So that's something we'll take care of, inventory. And the big one maybe is the Metcalf tree removal project. You said remove trees, but you were probably talking about trees around JJ Casby Observatory. Metcalf Field. Okay. I'll talk about that in a minute. So the biggies, what's there out there? The walkway replacement budget we budgeted for composite decking. And I've been looking at composite decking, and this is a ground installation of decking. One of the problems we've had here, and this has lasted pretty long. This is treated lumber on the ground, and it's got a soil base, and I guess it's lasted maybe 15 years. But it's still showing, some of the boards are showing some real damage, and at least individual boards need to be replaced. And overall, it could be replaced. But composite decking also is not guaranteed as a ground insulation. So it has problems with moisture too. So I think right now we're going to hold until we can investigate concrete as an alternative to see if Bellwin's open to that and whether it can fit in our budget to do concrete. But that'll be a lasting solution. Otherwise, we'll be replacing that composite decking in a few, 15 years, 20 years. It should have a 30-year lifetime, but what I'm hearing, warranty won't cover it if you install it on the ground like that. So the big one, Andrew Fraser, who could not be here tonight, he kind of took this project on. He was passionate about it a couple years ago. Suresh was passionate about it. So I said, hey, yeah, go run with it. If we make this happen, let's go for it. Not that they needed my permission. They were doing a great job. They were leading it. But Andrew did the groundwork, talking to the landowner to the south of Metcalf Field to see if they could get the removal or to facilitate the removal of the tall trees that block the southern horizon. So there's been a good bit of progress made. The key person was the property owner. He is now in verbal agreement to have the trees removed. The tree remover contractor is in agreement. And he is verbally given a gratis free labor, free removal. That's a significant donation. The fence contractor is pending. So there's a chain link fence that we may have to move to get to the trees more safely, I guess, for the contractor. And then the Bellwin has tentative permission. They've given a verbal. But these are all stakeholders, including the MAS, when we're working with this and facilitating this. So this project is going on. It's very, I would say it's exciting in the sense that, but I'm not going to promise that it's done deal until everybody comes to agreement and we get this in place. And the key thing that we want, our goal is zero or minimal cost to the MAS. This was not in the budget, but right now it's looking zero cost or very, very minimal. So the outstanding part right now is the fence, labor of the fence. So if you guys haven't been out to Metcalf, those are the trees to the south. This is a view of the fence line that would have to be worked on. And the trees that are on the left side of this are the trees that have to be removed. I think it's 12 or 15 40-foot spruce trees. Now, when this comes about, we think everything will be moved out and be cleaned up and done in a day or two. But if you guys are going out there and see work over there, just please stay away. Know that we may not have everything cleaned up and the fence back in place. So I know you go out in the dark, just be careful out there. Maybe avoid that side of the field if you can. So, any questions? Yes, Suresh, any comments? Yes, that's his goal. Oh, hey, the question was, Suresh made a comment that Andy is looking to try to wrap this up by the end of June and actually have the work completed. Of course, I'm not promising that until we know cost and whether everybody agrees. So Andrew, he also will deserve a round of applause if he makes all this happen. So this is great news. So any other questions or comments? Nope. Good.
They want to add Andy, they're trying to do this for 52 years.
Yeah.
Well, the 40-foot trees were 40.
Yep, Andy's been doing a great job. All right, thank you, Clayton. All right, so speaking of Metcalf, and let's give the microphone back to Suresh. Turn it on. Yes. So you want to talk about VSIG?
Hi, all. The BSIG was originally scheduled for Saturday, but Saturday's not looking too good weather-wise, so we decided to move it up to tomorrow night, Friday night, 8 o'clock. The weather doesn't look great tomorrow night either, but it looks better than Saturday. We're hoping to get at least a couple hours in before the clouds roll back in. So,
Get a couple hours in before the smoke comes in back in on Sunday.
oh, does it?
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Thank you, Suresh. All right. Other upcoming events that are scheduled from the MAS. So as Suresh said, Friday at 8 p.m. at Metcalf is BSIG. There is an ELO public star party at ELO, of course, on the 14th, Saturday, June 14th from 7 to 10. Key holders and volunteers there are always welcome. There's a LLCC member observing weekend, June 20th, 21st. Cherry Grove has member star party Friday, June 20th. Another member observing weekend at LLCC, June 27th, 28th. So the weekend observing sessions at LLCC need to be reserved on the forum. So we make sure you have a bunk because there are shared bunk rooms. We need to tell the Conservation Center how many rooms to reserve for that weekend. So make sure you sign up your name on the forum for those observing weekends. ELO Public Star Party on May 31st, again, 7 to 10. And what's that? Oh, that's last year. That's last month. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. Missed that one. All right, and then the next monthly meeting is here, July 3rd at 7 p.m. And we'll have a special speaker from the University of Minnesota, Christina Andrade, who's a researcher at the U of M. Talk about the Killanova Catcher Project. The Killanova Catcher Project.
Hey, that's that.
No. All right, key holder training sessions. Now we've got a scheduled ELO training session on Saturday, June 14th. That is the website sign up. There's a form on the website. If you go to the facilities area, there's a form that you can fill out to get your name on and reserve what kind of training you want at ELO. For JJ Casby, originally it was scheduled for this weekend, but I believe it's pushed to June 14th. And that is sign up on the MAS forum. Cherry Grove, also Friday, June 20th and 25th, forum sign up again. And then LLCC, the only training sessions that we offer at LLCC are during NNSF. But I will say that if there's a special request and there's key holders who can do the training for you, we could be able to make arrangements outside of NNSF if you want special key holder training at LLCC to operate the 25 and 30-inch Dobbs and open up and close up the observatory. But you don't have to open up the observatory to observe. If you're just bringing up your own equipment, you can plug into the power. There's Wi-Fi up there, and you can connect to that. So it's available during the weekends up there. But you do need to go through the training to use the Dobbs. All right. So those are the key holder training sessions that are scheduled for June. All right. Bigger events. We have 2 events now open up for registration. Camping with the Stars, that is being managed through Carver County Parks. So if you go on the MAS website to the ELO pages or onto the calendar, there are links to the Carver County site where you can actually register camping site on the ball field, or you can camp in the campground. So there is a nominal fee for that. So Carver County Parks is managing that registration. And then Northern Nights Starfest up at LLCC, August 20th through 25th. Registration is through Long Lake Conservation Center. This is the link. Also, you can go onto the website. There's a link on the forum, and there's links to the Long Lake CC campbrainregistration.com. So you register there. If you've been to NNSF before, it remembers your prior registrations, so it's easy easy to repeat that. But NNSF is a great dark sky event. All right, so again, both those events, links to the registration are on the website. All right, Ahmed, you're up.
Okay, it's this time of the year where I start asking people for astrophotography images. This would be our 6th year doing that. And this year, I'm trying to give people as much time as possible, hopefully 2 months. This will be for the August meeting. Send me your stuff. And the deadline is by July 31st, 11 p.m. So end of, last day of July, send me your stuff. And it will be featured in the August meeting. The objective is send me 2 of your best images if you're into astrophotography. And this will effectively qualify you. We'll be doing a door prize. We'll have 3 of them. And this year we're featuring Andy Weir's books. Sorry, Dave, not this year. Last year it was Dave. Actually, he gifted us the books last year, so thank you. But so yeah, that's it. Just send me pictures and that's it. Clayton? Yes, yes. So yeah, Clayton made a good point. Send pictures that you took last year, not something you took 5, 6 years ago. So yeah, something that you've been working on the last year, and time lapses are also good. Not
But 2 minute,
2-minute max time lapse.
2 pictures.
No moon pictures, Trina. No using cell phone. We're not doing the worst picture award this year. You can't win it. You can't win it. Yes. That was Trina 2023. Fair enough. Yep. Any questions? So yeah, email me at programs@mnastro.org. You can put it in the attachment if you want to. You can also put it on a shared drive if it's too big. Sounds good? Just be prepared to be here in the August meeting if you send me something, so you can talk and share about your picture, how you took it, the technique, equipment, etc. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Ahmed. All right. So, ways to volunteer. Everyone's always asking, how can I help? We're always looking for volunteers. So there's multiple ways we can do it. We talked about the outreach committee. So one of the things we need your presentations. So, and I'll talk about that more later. We can always use people to write articles for Gemini. If you're working on a special project, if you went somewhere, if you did something, write an article for Gemini. Father Brown would love to get a fresh article. Father Brown always gets articles from only MAS members and the community, local community. We don't republish articles that are national articles. Web team. If you've got experience doing WordPress or PHP or running a PHP forum or any kind of Google administration, that kind of stuff, the web team has resources in need for doing that kind of stuff. There's a lot of people doing a lot of work, and we really need to spread that love around. Join one of the committees. Become a key holder. Become interested in ELO. Become interested in JJC or CGO or LLCC. Become active in those committees, because it's the same people over and over again that are just continuing to go on and on in these committees. We're really looking for new people. Trying to train new people in. We like new ideas. We want to go in different directions. Another volunteer opportunity is we are starting next year. We're going to start investigating. The board is going to start investigating kind of more of a long-term vision for the MAS. What is the MAS going to try to do over the next 10 years, 20 years? We had a conference call with consultants for Carver County this morning, and they reached out to us to ask us for advice on what they can do, what Carver County can do for Baylor Park to make that a better facility for not only MAS, but for Baylor County and for the Minnesota and the Twin Cities at large. So these are opportunities that we all have, that we really need to do. And then, like I said, Suresh always needs help at the BSIGs. The more the merrier. It's just a fun time to be out there. Bring your telescope, bring your tools. There are people who need to learn how to do collimation. There's people that want to figure out how to set up their equatorial mount, how to make sure that they're not pointing at the ground, and how to find Polaris and all that kind of good stuff. So, and bring treats. Treats are always welcome at BSIG. And then outreach, always available for outreach. Always look at what available opportunities are outreach. Michael Copper does a great job. Urban outreach in South Minneapolis. And there's lots and lots of opportunities, whether it's at ELO, whether it's at a state park, whether it's at a facility here, one of our facilities. There's tons of opportunities. So outreach, always in it. If you have any questions about anything, you can always send an email to info@mnastro.org. Those emails go to the secretary, they go to me, and we answer those emails right away with any questions or any comments or any concerns. So, and if anybody has anything they want to help out with, we're open to listen. Okay, presentations. This was normally where I would be doing, we would have a member presentation, but we don't have a member presentation this month. Ooh. So what kind of presentations are we looking for? Observing campaigns, astronomical objects, if you're really into globular clusters or you're really into loose Trumpler clusters, I don't care. History topics, research subjects, ATM projects, if you're building a new telescope or having something like that. If you're restoring telescopes like I like to do, whether you do an outreach project that's kind of cool, that was really successful, we'd like to hear about it. We've had a couple great presentations over the last few months. Research topics, software and telescope how-tos, new astrophotography processing tips. Or if you're into NASA or manned robotic space missions, that's all open game. But the classic is better know a constellation. Who has not done a presentation in a long, long time? Who's up to do a presentation? Back in the day, we used to have presentations. Basically, we'd go through every single constellation and somebody would put together a presentation, and it would be a fun thing to learn about the mythology, the stars, what's in that constellation. Who is ready to give us a presentation? Clayton. All right. Anybody over here? Who's going to do it? Dave. I'll never hear from Dave. All right, this book is here, and I don't want to leave home with it. I want somebody else to take it, because we need member presentations. All right, Clayton is the man. You can always pawn it off to find the next guy. Thank you, Clayton. All right. Member presentation, none this month, but Clayton next month. So old man yells at cloud. No, we will have a better know your constellation presentation next month. Okay. Loaner Scope program. I see that Anton is still here. We will give Anton the microphone because he is going to be gone for a little bit.
Yes, I am. So, is this on?
Push the button. Try.
Now. Okay, good. Anyway, of course, the loaners program is in full swing now. I'll be honest, if you request a telescope now, you may not get it. They are almost all out in circulation. There's only a few that are available right now. Also, just mentioning, if you need to check one out from me, you're going to have to get it done by Sunday, because I am out of the country for 3 weeks after that. And when I get back, there's like 10 telescopes that are due in one day, so we'll see how that works out. But anyway, yes, we do have our Schmidt-Cassegrains, our refractors, and some binoculars and the solar scope. We have 19 instruments all together. As I said, we're only a couple in the locker right now. And members can check them out by going on the website, filling out the loan request form. I mean, even if I don't have one for you in the next couple of days and you want one, go ahead and make the request. Then I'll put you on the list, and when one is available, you'll be the next one to get it. Yeah, then we also have our DVDs of all things astronomy and astrophysics. Those are really underused. I check out just a couple of those each year, but you can go online and see the entire list of topics that are available, and you can borrow those as well as telescopes for me. Any questions about our loaner program?
Thank you, Anton. Have a nice trip. All right. Every Tuesday, our secretary, Claire, sends out the weekly happenings. So the weekly happenings is our newsletter. It's driven by a MailChimp. So that's the service that we use to export the newsletters. So once per week, Claire will write up the latest happenings of the MAS. So if you've got anything to publish that you want to let the membership know, if it's pertinent to the mass operations or some event that's coming up, anything like that, please send it to secretary@mnastro.org by pretty much the end of the week for the following Tuesday. It'll be sent out in the morning, usually on Tuesdays. So those kind of things. And if you're not on the mailing list, please sign up. There's a number of forms on the website. It either says stay in touch or sign up for the mailing list or something. All you got to do is put your name and email, and it's free, and anybody can do it. You don't have to be a member. Everybody gets it. Currently, I think there's about 1,200 subscribers to the mailing list, so that's about how many emails go out. So we get out to a fair amount of crowd. All right, online communities. The other things that we do, we offer Slack for members. This is a members only perk. So Slack is a high level chat function. There's a chat function. There's real-time file sharing. There's good high quality image sharing. And it's a real-time modern forum with a web interface. There's a web interface, and there's actually apps for Android and iOS for Slack. It's a really powerful tool. The board uses it. Most of the committees use it, and it's just a great tool all in all to keep and collaborate with other members. So the MNastro forum, that's where we have our outreach requests. And that is, the forum is open to not only Slack members, but it's open to anybody. So it is a PHP bulletin board type system, kind of older technology type system. We also have a YouTube channel. So every meeting gets edited down. Every BSIG presentation, every worthwhile presentation that we have gets uploaded to YouTube. And one of the board initiatives that we're doing right now is we're going to go back and through the archive of all of our YouTube videos and put better keywords and better search terms to put. So if you're looking for a certain presenter that might not be in the headline of the YouTube video, we're going to put a better index for searchable in the YouTube archives. So that's something that's coming up. All right, we're also on Instagram and other social media, Facebook and Instagram, like I said. And if you want to share anything on our social media platforms, please send images or any links or any files to socialmedia@mnastro.org. Our social media coordinator, Chris Bethia, will post those things. If you do send an image, please watermark your image, take credit for the work that you've done. All right. Official MAS stuff, Cafe Press. We sell many items, and we have for many years on Cafe Press, as you know, hats, mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, that kind of stuff. So that's still available. But I would like to announce we are moving our merchandise store to Redbubble. So starting in July, hopefully we should be announcing this in our happenings in the next couple weeks. We will be uploading our new artwork, higher resolution artwork, thanks to Jesse, to Redbubble, and Phil is working on the Redbubble project, and we will be adding a lot of different merchandise to our portfolio. So we're going to move away from Cafe Press and move to Redbubble. And my understanding is that there's much bigger variety of merchandise, polo shirts, t-shirts, hoodies, all kinds of things, stickers, all kinds of things that we're going to try to do. Phone cases, yes. All right, so look for announcement in happenings and on other platforms are moved to Redbubble. So we're excited about that. All right, Gemini. As I mentioned, Father Brown is our Gemini editor. He is always looking for articles in Gemini. Gemini comes out every couple months, and it gets attached to one of our weekly happenings emails. So again, this is an opportunity to write an article that gets published in this. We also have our Gemini archive online, which is a fully searchable index. So you can search every single Gemini for any keyword that's gone back all the way to the beginning when we were Twin City Astronomy Club. So email your article or ideas for articles to gemini@mnastro.org. All right, public service announcements. Lastly, with the M51 Galaxy by Chris Setness, as we're looking at that. Not a lot of other PSAs, but we do expect to have some additional donated equipment up for sale on the forum again soon, some eyepieces and some other random stuff that's coming in. So does anybody else have any other PSAs that I missed? All right, very good. Astronomical League. So, yes, virtual Jerry. We have to look at virtual Jerry yet again. Jerry did promise me, though, that he will join us next month, and he has a number of AL awards to present. The other thing that I do want to mention about the AL is AstroCon 2025 is coming up very, very soon, June 25th through 28th at Bryce Canyon. I know that Rebecca Messer is actually going there, so I'm excited for her doing that. So let's see if virtual Jerry can actually do his thing.
Get out there and observe or image.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. All right. There you go. Get out there.
Get out there and observe or image.
Yeah. All right. Now, so I would like to, we're going to have a brief break here as we switch over to Bob King. Is Bob King? Bob, are you online? All right. So I would like to introduce Bob King. Bob King is a many-time presenter of the MAS. He's presented a bunch of times at Northern Night Starfest for us. He's presented at Suresh's BSIGs a bunch of times. And here at these meetings, he's writes for Sky and Telescope and another bunch of other articles, has his own blog. And we all know and love Bob. So there's Bob with the cows. If you saw, that was my introduction slide, but
there's the cows. Yes, I
there's
remember.
the cows. That was the cows. But
Yep.
I'd like to introduce Bob King. Take it away, Bob.
All right. Hey, thanks, Fultz. I appreciate it. And thank you all for having me this evening. Wonderful to be. I can kind of see you all now because we've been together enough times in different places like Oklahoma and then further north for this big star party. Tonight's presentation is, I know you're kind of the crowd, so I'm speaking to the crowd in a sense. I know you're all astronomy evangelists of varying degrees, but and some of this will be very familiar with you when I'm going over. What initiated this talk, which is a bit experimental for me, is a chat online with Ahmed. And he said, gee, how do we talk to people about astronomy? How do we talk to the public about astronomy? How do we get more people involved? And I know that's a mission that virtually all of us are on for as long as we've been amateur astronomers. So some will be familiar, maybe there'll be a few tips. I don't know, you'll have to judge. But we start with probably the most obvious thing is public observing, that outreach that Waltz you had mentioned earlier. And public observing is that face-to-face, one-on-one, where you're working with people, showing people things, answering questions. It's also a time when we can work with people and show them what they can do with their smartphones. And some of you undoubtedly also do this. We do it in Duluth as well. I do it individually. I look at us all as teachers. I actually have been teaching astronomy, really basic astronomy, up at UMD. It's community education astronomy in a couple of different settings up there for many, many years. I counted it the other day. My daughter asked, and it was like 37 years. And people love astronomy. That's what's amazing to me is that the interest is there. So we just sort of guide and we act as teachers. Also, and this is something a little bit on the newer end, I look at ourselves as sort of soldiers of facts. We are more and more going to be assuming the role of guardians of facts in a world of AI, where there's a lot of hallucinating going on with AI. And there's, of course, a lot of conspiracy theories and sometimes direct attacks on knowledge. And so one of our jobs as observers and in speaking to the public is to make sure we know the facts so that they're getting really good information as the world tries to grapple with this new technology of AI. We love it out there with people, especially when somebody has a reaction when they look through the telescope and they say, ooh, and they stay at the eyepiece instead of wandering away in 2 seconds. They just love what they're seeing, which makes it just as enjoyable for us again. It's like re-experiencing, seeing Saturn or the moon or whatever the object might be once again. We're also, as I said, teachers. We're there to answer questions. And sometimes when looking at things with the telescope, it's a perfect jumping off point to talk about orbits and maybe seasons and maybe go so far as bring up the word ecliptic and other interesting concepts about astronomy. Of course, while we're there and you guys do this, and I've kind of turned over more time lately to helping people take pictures through my telescope. This is a 10-inch Skywatcher that I use, and it's usually a two-person operation. I hold their cell phone over the eyepiece, and then they see the image appear, and they take the picture. I make sure that they're doing the photography. Some people can do it alone, as you know, but usually with a little assistance, it helps, especially if there's a line of people and they all want to photograph the moon. And that is such a huge thrill for people when they see the moon image, for instance, come up on their phone. And of course, they love sharing that on social media, which gives me a thrill as well. Just another close-up of that, showing you setting it up over the eyepiece. Of course, a cell phone, smartphone is a wonderful instrument for doing lunar photography with virtually any telescope, even a pair of binoculars. When the people start pushing, hey, can I take a picture of Saturn and Jupiter? I tell them when we get some time, because that takes a little more time to get that tiny target in the field of view of a smartphone. As long as you're at these events and people are all equipped with phones, what I will sometimes offer to people is to demonstrate how to use their smartphone for night sky photography. Again, you may be doing this, when you're at the various observatories doing public observing sessions, but the reaction I get from people is astonishing. I'll just say, okay, hold your phone up, tap the sky, I'll show them the night setting, 3-second exposure. They see stars on their phone. They can't believe it. Of course, you can get pictures of the bright stars and constellations just by hand holding a smartphone. Typical iPhones default to 3 seconds. You can tap another setting on the iPhone to get 10 seconds. There's a night mode on Androids that does basically the same thing. This is a 3-second handheld. And what is so amazing, of course, is they can do 10-second handheld exposures. Even people who are brand new to this, as long as they kind of get the idea of holding it steady all of the images that are being rapidly taken in the phone will stack up and give them sharp image. So this is, again, the basic procedure. You aim the phone, and in my case here, in this example, I mentioned the Aurora. Hold steady, keep the crosses centered, default to 3. And both of those, 3 and 10, up to 10, are doable handheld. And you could do it right there at the observing session with the public. It's using their tool. People love doing things on their own more and more. And so to be able to show them that skill is always appreciated. You can also use it for auroras. I've had more than 20 people come up to me and say, I couldn't even see that aurora. And I put my phone up and it's all these colors. Are those real? And I say, yeah, they're real. They're more intense than normal because you're talking a time exposure. But even a 3-second exposure, and that's in this example, someone showed me their phone in a picture of the aurora that they took. So yes, you could do that. You can get moon rises. I suggest people to do moon rises, bright conjunctions. And when we get the occasional bright comet, like we did with Comet C 2023A3 back last fall, wasn't that like an incredible sight to have that comet out a number of nights? And this was just taken with my iPhone 13, 3-second exposure in twilight. And as the comet, you remember the comet was bright for a while, and then it kind of faded. The moon phase waxed, and it became faint and hard to see. And people said, Bob, I'm looking in the west, but I can't see it. And I realized, wait a minute, just point your phone in that direction, take a time exposure, and you'll see the comet. And then you can place it in relation to a tree or a house, and you'll know exactly where to look. So the phone becomes an observing instrument, a tool that they can use to actually find something that's invisible with their eye. And then to take another step, for those that are really interested in this, I encourage people, and again, this is in my community ed classes too, which is all basic novice astronomy. But I tell them about T Corbor, right? The star we've been waiting for I don't know how many months. It's starting to come into years for the outburst to happen, for this thing to blow. And I show them how to find the constellation Corona Borealis just by using the handle of a dipper. You arc to Arcturus, and then you look a fist to the left of Arcturus, and just point their phone in that direction. And if they see a star pop up where the X is marked here, who knows? They may be one of the first people to actually see T Corbor on the rise. Of course, crucial to understanding any of these, or to not understand, well, understanding and also appreciating any of these phenomena, are good models, good illustrations, diagrams. So people, when they see a point of light, they actually know in their mind's eye what's happening. So I'm always seeking out the very best things that will demonstrate what is actually happening in the heavens. And this is a really great from the Goddard Space Visualization Center. They produce tremendous numbers of these wonderful animations. And this is T Corbor, so we're going to watch it happen here. There's the white dwarf. It's surrounded by an accretion disk, and you're going to see the red giant come into view here. So the main star is the red giant. There's the dwarf. It's gathering matter, funneling it through the Roche lobe. Eventually, that matter spirals down onto the surface of the dwarf. It accumulates until it reaches such a high pressure and temperature that an explosion occurs, a thermonuclear blast. And this is what we're waiting for. When I explain that to a group, they're like, yeah, I want to see that. So good illustrations. And you guys are aware of that too, how important they are. Once again, another thing with the phone, as long as people are there at your observing session, or maybe this is something to consider for a class or a short lecture. And I do this now for every one of my little Astro units. I spend 30 to 35 minutes doing slide after slide after slide on how to use one of these stargazing apps for your phone, step by step by step. And then people just go along step by step with me. And in the end, they know how to use their phone. They know how to use the app. And they can go out when you're not there and discover all this stuff for yourself. You guys remember how it was when, it's now perhaps still, but when you were younger and you were first looking for the constellations and you found Orion and Corona Borealis and Aquila, you were like, holy heck. I remember being really excited at seeing that. And that sense of discovery and excitement is there for anybody after they leave your session, after they've left the star party. So you just hold it up. You guys probably all use these at one time or another. I like Stellarium Mobile. It's free. It's for all different types of phones, and it has a natural appearance. Also includes comets. So for instance, it did have comet Chuchinsan Atlas last year on it, so people could hold their phone up and find it as well. So you've got the face-to-face contact, those teaching possibilities for us, which are ubiquitous. You know, sometimes we'll just be on a walk and somebody will know that we're an amateur and they'll have a question and you're back into that teaching moment. The other thing, the other aspect of this, of course, in astronomy nowadays is the online engagement. And a lot of times you can do, I mean, obviously the best, or I should say the things of greatest interest online are when we have a big aurora borealis, or there's a total eclipse of the sun, you know, those monster events, or a wonderful Perseid meteor shower. But I've come to see that there are many micro events, these little small time sky events, and I put them in the spotlight, every one of them. And it can be, hey, look, Venus is out finally. Or wait a minute, Jupiter is rising at the same time Venus is setting, whatever it might be. And kind of make a big deal of it, include a short description, say, hey, maybe you can go out and see this. And this has picked up some interest doing this online when I do my posts online, the Astro stuff on Facebook, and also for the Duluth News Tribune. But what it does is you want to encourage people to get out there and observe. So you have these teeny tiny goals. Look at Venus, see a moonrise, whatever. So people are encouraged to observe while they're out, or I should say, while they're reading about this in the post, this little nugget that I'll post, they're learning basic sky concepts at the same time. They're out looking more often, we hope, which creates a connection to the sky, which deepens their interest and their love for the sky, which is always a good thing. And one of the other side benefits is lessening our fear of the dark. I think there's sort of a natural built-in fear of that. The more time we spend outside enjoying and connecting with that aspect of nature, which includes all the sounds around us, all the smells at night, and those other senses, I think we become less fearful of the dark and perhaps more cognizant, more aware of how bad lighting can damage our night sky experience. So I'll say, yeah, go out. Here's the time when the moon rises, full moons. People love watching the full moon, certainly in Duluth because it faces Lake Superior. It rises out of the lake all the time. So very easy thing to do. Again, one of those little tiny micro events. Or a bright moon and planet conjunction. Here's one coming up that can be publicized. You probably have noticed that Mars is approaching Regulus. They're only like maybe not quite a fist apart. I saw them last night, but they're going to be in very close conjunction on June 16th. So it'll look really cool, like a double star out there in the western sky. And they'll be almost the exact same magnitude, but just a difference of color between the two. When a crescent moon first appears, if you could see it around the 1 day mark, you'll see it broken into segments because of shadows cast by crater walls across the bright part of the moon, which actually bites it into pieces along the edge, the periphery. And if you give people sort of a little goal, they'll try to go out and see it. And if they see it and report back, you're like, yeah, good job. This is a little bit deeper, but not difficult to do. When we have a crescent moon, we'll often see the night side of the moon lit by earthshine. And so I prepared a map on how many features can you identify on the Earth-lit moon. And that sparked some modest interest. Then just lately, one of the things that's coming up and we all anticipate so much is the return of the summertime Milky Way. Here it is coming up, not too far from where I live. And I've got some dates there. so people know, well, when can I see it? So you just give them some very clear times and dates they can go out and spot the rising Milky Way. Just a very brief description of what they're seeing and why it looks like a band. And all of these events, in particular, I guess, the Milky Way, getting outside, uh, you get this sort of psychological benefit of being outdoors. And again, I don't have to talk to you guys about this because you know it well. You've experienced this deeply. But you experience at least two different things. Your significance in the cosmos, at least I do, the fact that I am alive. I'm a tiny, living, conscious thing in a great, vast space, and my time is very limited. And also my insignificance, too, in the grand scheme of things. And that is, frankly, it's a very deeply emotional experience. It can be. And it's something that I think more of our population, of our people, need to experience in their lives for happiness' sake. So part of this, the online presence, is feedback and participation. When people jump out and say, yeah, I was out there, I saw this, I do try to get back to everybody with a brief comment, like an attaboy, glad you got out there. And then I'm also available to answer questions and provide encouragement throughout. Definitely is a little bit of work, but it's just my tiny rivulet of what I choose to do to spread the gospel here, I guess, of astronomy. Of course, teaching opportunities are everywhere. Some teachers are very quiet, and I can just say everybody has a different style. And some are very, they're dancing across the stage practically. Doesn't matter, whatever your style is. The main thing, what people do sense from you when you're out there, is your enthusiasm and your passion. And if you're speaking from a passionate place, as you know, that's like magic elixir. People feel that, and it's a further motivation for them to get out and enjoy the sky, unlock things, use their tools, their cell phone. One of the things I do as a teacher is I try to make a lot of everyday comparisons. I look around, I'm always thinking of some junky way to describe some difficult concept. Occasionally I succeed, sometimes I don't. One of my favorite things are barcodes, and maybe you've used this too when talking about star spectra, but they contain the information, right, on the price and the weight and all kinds of things about the product. So I went to my cabinet here and photographed, I think those are some fire smoked tomatoes there. And then we have the spectra of a variety of different elements. And those spectra are also like barcodes or fingerprints. They tell us which element is producing that light. So they are key to our understanding of what stars and nebulas are made of. And then I'll show them the spectrum of Vega and say, here's the barcode for hydrogen right there. And they have a very familiar example, at least a basic connection between rainbow, spectrum, composition, barcode. So, and sometimes that's all you need to get going. Using the spectrum again, I'll take and say, look at this tiny sliver. This is what we see. And there's all this other stuff on the left, all this other stuff on the right. Short, long, and it's all light, just different forms of light. And if we had eyes that could see that particular flavor of light, the universe would look very different. And then I provide a couple of examples. Here's, for instance, visible light from an active galaxy in the center. It looks pretty ordinary in visible light, but in the radio waves, holy heck, that thing's got jets of plasma shooting out of it like a cartoon character, way, way out into space. So different picture, right? Here's the Milky Way in visible light. Now, this is a pretty sizable chunk, right, of the central bulge, which is covered there by all of those beautiful dark nebulae. Within that, at the Sagittarius A star position where the center is, if you look at that region in microwaves and you get through that dust, this is what it looks like. And it's just an incredible view. And it's a very particularly this pair of photographs shows you in a profound way how looking at the universe in different light really changes our perspective and the knowledge we glean from our subjects. By the way, those big round bubbles and stuff, those are shells of expanding supernovae from long ago, still expanding wonderfully. And then there's these interesting spikes they're still working on exactly how those form. Another example, I hope you don't mind a couple more examples here, but it's fun to talk about the Big Bang. It's always like stepping into a bit of a mess because it's kind of a problematic, something coming from nothing, literally. But I explained that after the fireball and the intense heat, things cooled down, and the first atoms form, regular stuff, regular matter, hydrogen and helium, simple atoms. And then I'd like to look at and tell or explain what the composition of the human body is by atom. And when you do that, you can say, well, how old are you? It's like the composition is 60% of our atoms formed 13.5 billion years ago. And just to give sort of a time perspective on how ancient a thing we are and how directly we're tied back even to the very beginning of time and space. So a few diagrams and a little bit of connection can really pop open a few light bulbs in people's heads. And these just come from teaching. This is mostly from the classes that I teach. Of course, the elements come not just from the Big Bang. Those are only the simple ones. We have the famous case of Betelgeuse here. Here you see it rising. Big star. We all know that. Red supergiant. Cut the thing open. Dang. That's fusing all kinds of elements inside. You've got silicon and carbon and helium, you name it, all the way up to iron. And we all know what happens if a star makes iron in its core. Can't fuse that, right? So basically fusion ends in the core, the star collapses. Oh, but I forgot to mention the jawbreaker analogy. I like jawbreakers as a kid. I don't do them anymore because my teeth can't handle it. But Betelgeuse is like one of those giant jawbreakers in terms of having multiple concentric layers, but of course not of sweet sugar, but of different elements. And then when the fire's out in the center, the star collapses, elements are released. There's all kinds of other processes that create even heavier elements that then are spread across space and then reincorporated into the next generation of stars and planets. There's also northern lights. It can be a very complicated thing to explain. Well, how does it happen? Well, the sun has a big explosion, launches a CME. CME comes to the Earth, follows the magnetic field lines, goes down into the atmosphere, lights it up. Here it is in a nutshell, what that process looks like. But you can also use a really simple analogy of an old TV tube type computer monitor. So instead of the sun, we've got a high voltage, we turned it on, we got a beam of electrons, which is being affected by a magnetic field. They are focused onto a screen that is coated with a phosphor, lights up. So this is a very good analogy, actually, for how the northern lights occur, just using an old CRT. It makes me almost wish we had a few more of those around because they're fading from memory now. And one of the other things is context. I think context is always important when speaking with people. It's good to talk about details of how this happens and what happens, but I like a broad context on things in the end. And I show you a snowflake here because we're all familiar with snowflakes. This is one that was out on the tree in my front yard. And I'll take a snowflake and explain, if you magnify this billions of times, if you add a billion trillion snowflakes together, you get a landscape of snow, as you see on the right. And then you get other really cool things happening, like these little plops of snow on the leaves that insulate it from melting when it touches the ground. So you get these beautiful things that happen that begin with a single flake, but multiplied by trillions of times. The same thing happens in many processes in nature and in the universe, and in particular in the aurora borealis, because you have gazillions of electrons. By themselves, each one produces the tiniest little flash of light when it strikes an oxygen. or a nitrogen in the atmosphere. But you put them all together and you've got shimmering curtains and you got staying up late, sometimes all night, going to bed with a smile on your face before you're completely conked out. This is just kind of a crappy thing I put together. It's kind of low res, but there it is, Northern Lights. Just like a zillion snowflakes instead, but electrons instead. The other thing is I have learned over time, whether in public at a star party, public event, or in teaching, is to break things down, kind of like I do with sky events, into the smallest possible pieces. I used to make assumptions that people knew how the solar system was laid out, but I have come to realize that for whatever reason, people do not understand even the most basic concepts of astronomy. They're just ignorant of them, or maybe they knew once and forgot them. And so I break things down into simple things and encourage the most basic questions, like the spinning Earth. Very important to know. The Earth turns. There's the speed happening right now for you guys in Minneapolis. A little bit slower here in Duluth. Causes the stars to rise in the east. Time exposure shows them as trails. And I will break it right down. Stars rise in the east. They cross to the south. That's when they're highest. And then they set in the west. And then there's the special case of the North Star, where they appear to be moving in a circle around the North Star. Explain how Earth's axis is tipped towards the North Star. And it's similar to an umbrella. If you take an umbrella, you hold it up to the sky, the shaft represents the Earth's axis. Where it points, and I created kind of a Photoshop diagram here, that's where Polaris is. And if you spin your umbrella, that's the same thing as the spinning Earth. The axis points steadily in one direction, and the stars describe arcs around the pole star, Polaris, where the axis points. So just basic stuff. And I try to make as few assumptions as possible. And I'm still breaking things down. Even after all these years, I'm still breaking it into smaller pieces. Talk about the galaxy. We all like talking about the galaxy. How big is it? What's the structure? What's it look like? It's very important to incorporate humor into what you do. And I wish I had more funny slides, but I do have one funny one that I made. I'll tell them about the various models of the galaxy, and then I'll say that scientists have settled on the Danish model of the Milky Way, which is the tastiest version of our galaxy. Bad humor, I'm sure. But anyway, adding humor into any presentation is definitely a way to get people to listen to you. I've given some talks sometimes where it's all quiet. And I think, oh man, I've totally blown it. And then I'll make a joke, or some talks there's humor and it just works better. So I've learned that humor is an excellent lubricant for allowing knowledge to get from there into here. Saturn at the moon's distance, so we can appreciate how enormous this planet truly is. So those are just examples from teaching, having good diagrams, or what I feel are effective diagrams, and breaking things down into small bits. And when possible, whenever possible, take the risk and tell a bad joke, because people do laugh at bad jokes too. Now, when you're out, I know you are always getting these questions too. People always say, well, what telescope should I get? I'm thinking about getting a telescope. And probably like you, I try to dissuade them from getting a telescope. Get a sense of, do you know this? How much do you know about the sky? Do you know the constellations? So, of course, I suggest binoculars as a first step, because with binoculars, you can do so much. Obviously, conjunctions, eclipses, brighter open clusters like the Beehive and the Pleiades. I could go on and on. Bright asteroids, the planet Neptune, the planet Uranus. So you can see all of them. And they're inexpensive is the main thing for people, is you can get a decent pair. This is a good brand. This is just one example. You may have your own, but this is one that is a very good brand, and a decent size too, allows you to see things. There's also a 10 by 50 version of this for a little more money. But sometimes people still insist Well, I'd really like to get a telescope because I want to see the planets. And then I've always got these kind of in my back pocket. So I'll have a binocular suggestion for them, and then I will show them on their phone so that they can bookmark it. And then I'll have a telescope suggestion. And I am sure you have seen how expensive telescopes are becoming. They've doubled in price, the most basic scopes. And right now, this is a good basic scope for probably the most reasonable price that I've been able to find anyway. This Skywatcher 5-inch tabletop telescope. You may select another. Then there are people that just automatically want to do astrophotography. They've seen pictures of the Whirlpool, the Lagoon Nebula, whatever it is, and they want to duplicate that. So fortunately, we have sea stars and other instruments, smart telescopes that you can purchase. And this is especially effective for people who live in light polluted areas, for whom a telescope would be a very difficult thing to use in a light polluted area, but they certainly can use a sea star or any smart telescope to accomplish that goal. A couple of impediments that often come up at star parties or in class is light pollution, and I imagine it's considerably more significant for you guys. So these are some of my responses. I bet you've got a bunch that I'd love to hear myself. I show people where they can find dark sky locations using the Light Pollution Map website. So somebody will contact me from the Twin Cities and say, hey, I want to see the Northern Lights. I hear it's out tonight. And I'll say, go to this website and you will find a place where near where you live, go to the purple area here or blue area as close as you can. You can attend one of your guys' star parties or visit one of the observatories. You can switch to beginning astrophotography with a smart telescope. And you can also, what I do is encourage simple personal efforts to reduce light pollution. I think people feel like it is just unstoppable sometimes, but you can begin at your home with simple ways. This is an example of a shielded light. This is my house, actually. We replaced the outdoor light with an even better shielded one that provides tons of illumination right where you need it. And I bought it at Menards, so I know you can get at least 1 or 2 good lamps there. I tell people to get curtains, and if they have curtains, close their curtains at night so that light does not go out into their yards and the sky. And then just turn off unnecessary lights. And if they're paranoid, when they leave for somewhere and it's night and they want to make it look like someone's home, I always say, don't turn on an outdoor light. Keep those all off. Just turn on the indoor one. That really makes it look like somebody's at home, if you have that fear. One of the major impediments to our hobby are, one word, clouds. And we are always trying to outrace clouds. I know I have. I would not have seen much of Comet 2023 A3 were it not for getting in my car and driving 50 miles this way or that way. So I encourage people to get a weather app like Windy, where they can see the movement of clouds clearly and learn to anticipate where they're coming from and where they're going to so they can potentially take a road trip and beat the odds. And then the most important thing, when people get really disappointed at times because they don't see the Northern Lights displays, or, we were rained out for a meteor shower, I tell them just that they're always, in astronomy, we're so fortunate because everything repeats over and over and over. It's one of the things about the universe that's pretty reliable. So there are always more opportunities in the future. And one of the great joys of the hobby, it sounds ironic in a way, but one of the great joys is, and this, is the anticipation of an event. The thought that it's happening and you might see it and then it doesn't happen. Well, that is disappointment. But up to that point, that anticipation is life affirming and it feels great. I mean, there's something to be said for it. And finally, at events, it's good to ask your audience, the participants there, why are you interested in astronomy? Or what interests you in astronomy? Why did you come here? And then maybe use that feedback to further your outreach efforts, if you need to make changes. But I'm not, maybe we all have asked people, why are you interested in astronomy? But it is a good question. And as we all know, people love being listened to as well. That is the end of this part of the presentation, which is, about the evangelical aspects of astronomy. Probably not the best word, right? But I have another short section just for us, intent observers too, of something that's happening right now. So I don't know if there are any questions at this point or whether I should just go to the next. I've only got like 4 or 5 more slides. What do you think?
Are there any questions in the house or online?
So just continue?
Yeah, just keep going.
Okay, here we go. Maybe some of you are aware of this, but again, this is sort of the same thing as like a nugget in a way that for Facebook, but this is something for more dedicated amateurs like ourselves. The Titan shadow transit season is underway, and I have never seen one. It has never worked out for me in all my years. I either didn't pay attention, didn't know when it was happening. It was cloudy out. The seeing was bad. All the other impediments that we're aware of, right? But this is happening right now. You can see this beautiful image from the last Titan shadow transit season. That was back in 2009. So this one is underway presently. And this is one of the first Titan transits of our season that we could see. This was taken by Bob Lunsford, who runs the International Meteor Organization. And he is a intense planetary observer. He photographed it at dawn on May 31st. And you can see the moon Titan. And then there's its shadow right above the ring plane. Pretty cool. I've seen Jupiter ones, right? We've all seen Jupiter shadow transits. Curious how many of you have seen Titan's shadow transit. But the season for the Americas, for North America, is very brief. And the next one that's coming up, and you may want to mark this down or maybe just take a picture of this slide, is on June 16th. And it begins at 3:21 a.m. Central Time. And it continues all the way. These things take several hours for Titan shadow to transit the planet, but it continues past sunrise. So I cannot wait. I missed the May 31st one because of dense smoke, the issue we have with the wildfire smoke. And I'm really hoping for this one. And if this one doesn't work, there are several more. By the way, this just shows you the progress of Titan, how it changes position, latitude across the planet as the season progresses. So on May 15th, it was right over the equator. By July 2nd, it's north. September 20th, last transit, October the 6th. Here's a list of them all. This is it for the whole season. So the next one is the 16th of June. And then the last one is October 6th. And then the next series begins in the year 2038. My God, I hope I'll still be here. Probably be rolling up in a wheelchair next to my Dob. But anyway, if you're interested in this sort of thing, I encourage you to go out and it'll always be for our time zone. These will happen mostly after midnight or in the late evening hours. So I'm hoping this time in my life, I'm going to catch Titan's shadow and maybe even see Titan itself against the cloud tops of Saturn. There is always something new for us out there as we get deeper into whatever niche of the hobby that we choose. And that's my presentation. Thank you very much, everybody, for being there, for indulging me. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Bob. Does anybody here in the room or anybody online have any questions for Bob?
Or has anyone seen one of those Titan occultations? Or
Clayton has a question.
yeah.
Back to your first presentation. I also find areas.
Check it again. Push it.
Hello, can you hear me now? There we go.
All right, as I said, I'm retired. I don't do technical anymore. Um, back for the first presentation, I've also heard people recommending the Sea Star as the first astronomical equipment recommendation. Have you heard of anyone actually taking that recommendation yet? I'm wondering how people actually have done that.
You mean, do I know anyone who that has been their first telescope? And is that what you mean? Their very first instrument?
No. Okay. Yep, there's some people here.
I've heard,
Suresh?
I know a couple people that when I shared some photos taken with my Sea Star, they immediately went out and bought one because I showed them how it was done. You know, I showed them the phone and the image coming up, and they were just charmed. And they said, I really want to do that. And yes, so there's been a lot of interest. And anyone who has a Sea Star is probably aware of the Sea Star group on Facebook, which has tons of people and lots of imagery, and it's really taken hold.
Suresh just mentioned a number of people have taken their Sea Stars to our BSIG events as well. So
How many is it is significant? Pretty good number?
probably 3 or 4.
Well, that's not too bad. That's pretty good.
Yeah, the dwarfs and some of the other models as well.
Right, right. Of course, the unistellar smart telescopes, you're able to actually connect up with other scientists online and download or upload data at their request. They have got various programs, stars to observe, and then they publish your results and your name in scientific papers. So with the Unistellar, it's a very special arrangement.
I think Clayton was asking, have you seen that people who have gotten into the hobby with the Sea Star as their entry level thing move on up the ranks to a more sophisticated astrophotography setup?
Have I seen that? I know, yes, I've seen a couple of people start with the basic Sea Star model and then put it on an equatorial mount and do other things to it in order to kind of jazz up, they upgrade it in a bunch of ways. But they have not gone like to the next level, where they've got the planetary cameras and refractors and, more complicated setups. I'm not aware of it anyway.
All right, any other questions? Oh, online question here, John?
Yeah, we have an online question. It's, Bob, will you come back and teach us about advanced aurora chasing with scales and indexes, et cetera?
Oh, sure. I would love to. It's one of my favorite things to discuss, as you guys know. I'm always out looking for auroras. It's almost like a lifestyle of sorts, where you're up at night and you're with the frogs and the wolves and just being out at night. There's a certain calm to it well, it's just being out as an amateur. I love the night. So
Maybe
yes, I would love to.
Presentation. Maybe make that your presentation at Northern Nights this year.
I don't know. Walt, maybe we should talk about that. Be happy to
Yeah.
discuss it with you. Sure, that'd be cool.
Exactly.
No transit, Titan transit observers? Channel transits?
Yes, Suresh has seen a couple.
Oh, of course Suresh has.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm glad, Suresh. I knew it. You would see it. That's good.
Hey, Bob, question for you. I noticed you're holding the smartphone up to your eyepiece. Have you ever used any of those phone holders? Have you ever found success with those?
I haven't used a phone holder myself. No. And I don't when I'm with the public because it's something else to fool around with, and I don't know if it's going to fit the same way on every phone. And that's why I do it with two people all the time. Some people say, "Oh, I'll do it alone." I'm like, "Go ahead."
Yeah.
And they're struggling, to keep anything centered. And I go, "Let me help you." So I always hold the phone because now I know exactly where to put every phone. We kind of zoom in and out, And
I
then,
actually used one very successfully at the Bakken Star Party last October,
Yeah.
and people were just. I had my Edmund set up, and people were just lining up. We were taking moon. We took
Right.
100 different moon pictures. It was in
That-
and out. It was very good, very efficient.
And you don't use a holder either?
No, that was with the holder.
Well,
That
you-
had a
oh, you
holder.
use so
Yeah.
the holder actually worked for all the different types of phones?
Oh yeah, it adapts very cleanly, very nicely.
Well, I
Oh,
picked up a universal holder, which
Yep.
was universal for about a year.
Uh,
And then everyone
okay.
upgraded their phone types and
Oh.
had to get the next universal. And I now have 8 of them,
ah,
all
8
claiming to be
universal
universal.
holders?
I have a Celestron one, and it's pretty good.
The
It's-
one I found great success with is Celestron. It
Yeah.
has adjustments for the X, Y, but also the Z.
Yep.
So you could get that exit
Yep.
pupil.
Yep, it works really
And
well,
that's
especially
the-
for the moon, and
Yep.
it worked okay for Jupiter too, but
Yeah.
moon worked great.
Well,
Yeah, the
Jupiter
moon,
and
I-
Saturn are so tough because
Yeah, they're
your
small.
exposure box
Yep,
is so big compared to that tiny little dot.
Correct.
So
Yes, yes.
there's
I guess I love that, Vault, so that you've found a good holder for that. I'm just so I've done it enough times that I could just get it right there, but it would probably still be faster. Can you maybe send me a link, tell me
Sure.
what that is after the meeting?
I can
Because
do
I'm
that.
curious. I would love to
Yep.
see that because it'd be nice to try a different way to do it too. So,
Yep, it works
Yeah.
really well, I think.
yeah, that's really great. And you said you do Jupiter once in a while too, Saturn?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Jupiter is not too difficult. Saturn gets a little trickier because it's fainter,
Right.
small.
Hi, Bob. Jim Peasley here.
Oh, hi, Jim.
I got a quick question about focus. Oftentimes I've got people coming past the scope at an outreach and they're all kind of like, oh, can I focus it? You know, and then it's out of focus for the next person. And then it kind of creates a cascade. Do you have any tips as far as how to cut that down at the scope?
Wow, that is really a good question, Jim. What I usually do is I have good vision with my glasses on. I focus with my glasses. Through experience, I've learned that most people will see it in focus fine. But a few people will not. And I always ask, do the stars look like points? And if no, then they just have to be shown how to focus it. And then it's a simple instruction. Go in, make it out of focus, come back out, and then land in the middle. And then, usually most people get it quite quickly. They get the focusing thing. But then as soon as they're done, I walk in and I refocus to my vision with glasses on. Never without glasses, because then it would be totally off. But it gives me good vision that seems to match many others. But yeah, yes, that's good. Can I mention something? Just an idea, and I'm checking with someone on this. One of the things I've always wanted, and maybe some of you guys have come across or invented this, is a type of reticle, some way that you could market where something was in the field of view, where you could slide something in and say, look at this spot right there, because that's the most difficult thing for me. If I'm showing somebody a supernova, a bright one, we'll say, and they'll be like, which star is it? And I came across somebody who has a type of stop that he puts on his eyepiece where he can point to something in the field. And as soon as I find out how he's done it, I'm going to share that with everybody. The first time I've heard of it. Is anyone aware of anything like that? Yeah, I'm not. This is the first I've ever
Go ahead,
heard of
I'll
it.
repeat.
What was that?
Yeah, Ron is mentioning that Mead has a crosshair reticle available. Yeah, but that's in the center of the.
But that's in the center.
You
Yeah,
have to
that's in the
aim
center.
scope for that.
Right. Yeah, I think it would be a wonderful accessory if someone would invent it where you can put it on an object wherever in the field and people would know or an arrow, a little arrow pointing would be great too, that you could adjust. So just a thought, kind of a fantasy there.
I have a question about your T Corona Borealis. When it
Yes.
finally blows, does it last a second, a minute, a day, a week? About a week, you say?
It lasts about the whole, the bright part. let's say somebody sees this thing go on the East Coast, all right? They say, hey, it's rising. It will rise to maximum in a matter of hours. So it'll go right from 10th magnitude to magnitude 2 in, I don't know exactly how many hours, but just hours. And then it'll stay at 2, magnitude 2 or thereabouts, the same as Alphecca, the brightest star corona, for a day or two, and then it will begin to plummet. So it's not a snap on and off, thank goodness, but it's quite brief. So if you had a spell of cloudy weather, you could miss maximum.
You have to be a twitcher, like a bird watcher.
There you go. So, well, you know, as soon as there are people that are just like pounding out observations of this on the AAVSO, if you go to their website, just reams of them all night long. Somebody's going to see this. And as soon as it's seen, it'll be everywhere. So we're in the right era. You know, when Leslie Peltier saw it in 1946, you know, he missed the initial outburst because he felt sick that night, the one night, and he'd been observing it every night, but he missed that night because he felt sorry for himself and he wanted to get well, so he slept. It was a big mistake. But nowadays, you could just be alerted. So we're fortunate. I mean, when the outburst does occur, I think we'll hopefully all have a chance to see some aspect of it.
Hey, Bob, it's Suresh.
Yes, Suresh.
I wanted to add to your comment earlier on your evangelist portion of your talk. When
Yes.
you mentioned having people asking people why they actually are there, what they want to get out of that session.
Yeah.
You know, what in astronomy interests them. I think that's a really important point. We do this at the B6. We get people together at the beginning in a big circle. So think of like 60 or 80 people. And we literally ask them, why are you here?
Ooh.
What do you want to get out of it? What telescope do you have? What interests you? And that really breaks the ice. It really does. Because think about it. People are there. A lot of times they don't know each other. They're going to be in the dark. And
Yeah.
this is the way of, you know, if people are saying, I'm here because I want to learn how to build a telescope. And if somebody else is there that also wants to build a telescope, now you've got a buddy. Or, you know, hey, I'm new. I just got this Celestron telescope. Oh, I've got a similar one. You know, let's team up and learn together. And a lot of times with beginners, especially, I see they learn together. They form little packs and, and you know, they go off and, you know, they're observing challenges together and stuff, and they build friendships. So I just want to add to that. I think it's really important.
Well, I think that's really great. You're doing something wonderful there with those B6, because if that's how you're starting them, you're right on target, I think. That is just a great way to start. You know, sometimes I know another teacher who one of her students described her teaching method. She said, you know, Judy spent the first 40 minutes of our class just asking us about ourselves. And at first I thought that, you know, we were kind of wasting our time, maybe. Weren't we here to learn about the birds? It was a birding class. But she said, in the end, learning about each other really helped because we were supportive of each other and also comfortable, and people felt great about asking questions. So what you're doing is really good, Suresh. That's great.
All right, Ron has one more question.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can you please share your Facebook group?
Oh, yes. It's just, you can just look up Astro Bob, 2 words. And it's, I can get the link. Hold on. Can I? Yeah, I can get the link here.
Hey,
But-
Bob, something you touched on a little bit, if I could just add an appreciation for the underappreciated. You mentioned a supermoon, and a lot of the evangelists will roll their eyes and call you a heretic. And yet,
Did I mention a supermoon? I don't.
no, I was speaking the royal we.
Oh, okay, great.
Because I've had that treatment out under the stars, and you know,
Okay.
you can see the eyes rolling in the dark. It's
Sure.
a phenomenon. But it is something that people see these posts of something that's going to happen. So they go out because they're looking for it. And here's an opportunity to get them out underneath the sky. And maybe the 25 times you asked them to come to a star party, it hasn't worked. But here they saw this post from their auntie and they're going to go out and watch the supermoon. So
Yeah.
I don't mind stuff like that. In fact, the full moon coming up this month on the 11th is going to be lower in the sky than the moon has been for like 20 years. Because
Yeah.
it's on the bottom part of it's at its maximum below the ecliptic at like 5 degrees. So it's going to be
Right.
especially low. And when it's low near the horizon, you know it looks bigger and more orange. So
Right.
it should be a spectacular full moon. And did we see that this month? Watch for the spectacular low moon? We did not, because sometimes it's the subtle stuff that really grabs us, and yet it doesn't make the papers. But it can capture imaginations.
Yeah, and that's the type of thing where you would get the word out on that. And I'm okay with supermoons. I don't mention them a lot. I mean, honestly, I do mention them sometimes too. But as a stepping stone towards understanding, hey, what does a supermoon mean? And oh, it has to do with the shape of the moon's orbit. It's close here, further there. So it's a way also to get into a concept. And your thing about the moon being super low on the ecliptic, you could, that'd be a great little nugget of astronomy right there. Hey, why is the moon so low? Because people are going to want to know, why is it so low? So there's probably some way to explain that in a basic manner where people would nod their head. Oh, okay, I think I get it. So, but yeah, I think I'm really glad you mentioned that. That's a good point about that particular moon.
All right, any last questions? All right, Bob, thank you very much for an enjoyable talk. And as always, we will welcome you back, and we appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you again for
Yeah,
having me. It's
you're our
always
treasure.
fun. Yeah, it's always fun being, I feel like I'm kind of there because I know so many people now. So it's really a pleasure. And again, I appreciate everyone's time this evening. Thank you. Oh, by the way, I put up the link to to Facebook in the chat.
All right, thank you.
Hmm.
All right. Then to wrap up, I want to reiterate our next meeting will be Thursday, July 3rd at 7 p.m. right here. Our featured speaker will be Christina Andrade from the U of M. She will be talking about the Kilonova Catcher program that she is working on. So also want to invite everybody to Pizza Luce for post-meeting pizza and beer. For those who can make it, please come. Otherwise, we will see you next month. We will compile and publish the YouTube version of this meeting and the presentations, and it should be up on YouTube by sometime next week. So um, thank you, everybody, for coming, and we will see you next month and see you at Star Parties and the events coming up in June. Thank you.